Hey everyone, welcome to my channel, and a special hello to all the UC applicants out there who are currently in the process of writing essays. This video is for you. I'm going to be talking to you about how you can self-edit your essays, because at the end of the day, yes, it's important to get feedback from others, but you are the person who submits the final draft. So you need to know whether or not the draft that you currently have is good enough to be considered your final draft, and here's how to do it. The first thing that I would advise you to do is look at your essay through a different lens than you would usually look at it. Try not to think of it as your essay. Try to look at it more objectively and approach it from the thought process of someone who doesn't know you. And keep in mind, this person could be anybody. The reader could be, I don't know, a 30-year-old woman. The reader could be an 80-year-old man. This could be a professor. This could be anybody. So you really have to write the essay with that in mind. And as you're revising it, make sure that the essay that you have written comes across as something that is sort of understandable by every age. Read your essay and think to yourself, does this make sense to anyone who reads it? If there's anything that's unclear, that's really going to be your biggest enemy with these essays. And I've said this in previous videos, but any ambiguity is just going to open up questions in the mind of the reader. And when the reader doesn't have answers to those questions, all they can do is fill in the gaps with whatever comes to mind. And maybe it may not be a reflection of your experience. So make sure you give them everything they need to understand what you're saying in your essay. As you're going through these essays, one thing that people really struggle with is word count. I've noticed that a lot of people tend to go over the word count and they feel, probably rightfully so, that there's a lot that they have to explain, and 350 words can be really difficult to get everything crammed in there. And I know I've been in your shoes before, but just keep in mind that there is definitely a concise way to convey what you're trying to convey. You don't need to give every single little detail. Details are important, yes, reflection is important, but it can come to a point where the details aren't exactly germane to what you're writing about. They're just a little off topic. And when you find yourself going through these essays, one thing that I like to do personally is ask myself, if this detail was gone or if the sentence was deleted, would the essay still make sense? And if the answer to that question is yes, then you know it's something that can be deleted. You know that it's not necessary for the flow of the essay and for the logic of the essay, which is really one of the big things. At the end of the day, it has to make sense. Along the lines of details, as you're reading your essay and kind of critiquing it from that objective lens, ask yourself, does this point that I make or is this sentence contributing to my essay in a meaningful way? If the answer is no, then it can probably be cut. Like, I see this a lot with people who include sweeping generalizations in their essays or platitudes, like communication is a really important skill for leaders to have. Like, yes, but I feel like that's kind of common knowledge. That's kind of just something that's assumed when it comes to being a leader. You don't need to say things like that, or you don't need to say things like biology is a really difficult field, or econ is a really difficult field with many different facets. Like, yes, that is pretty well known. If it's not adding to your essay in a meaningful way, and if it's kind of taking away word count that you could use towards something else that would actually be beneficial to your essay, that's how you know it needs to go. Ask yourself if you've explained yourself enough. What I mean by that is I get a lot of people, I've been doing this essay editing service for a while now. I get a lot of people who try to tell a story, which is great, but then they neglect to tell the reader like what was going on in their mind throughout this experience that they had. That is one of the really crucial elements that you don't want to leave out of your essays. UC loves to hear about like character development and any sort of growth you have. They like to hear about inner turmoil and your internal thought processes, about what's going on around you and your outlook and stuff like that. So that is important. The key is balancing between explaining the experience / telling a story and providing adequate reflection. It is a fine line. You do have to strike that right balance. But I think with enough revision and really getting an understanding of what they're looking for, you can do it. One other thing that I like to point out in regards to tone is I see oftentimes these essays the ends of the spectrum that just couldn't be more opposite. For example, I'll get people who write in a tone that is so casual that it seems like I'm reading a text message. Okay, you don't want to do that, so ask yourself, is this appropriate? The other end of the spectrum that I often see is I see people who write so like academically and just try to incorporate as many like SAT words as they possibly can, and like I don't think that that is really gonna help you, because if you don't really talk like that in real life, it will come across as contrived, and oftentimes you end up using words incorrectly and the readers will pick up on that. So you want to show overall that you have a good command of the English language, right? That's a huge part of these essays, not only to share about your life experience, but the reader wants to know that you're writing in a way that's an appropriate level for University of California. So once again, finding the right balance is important. You want to be personal, yes, but you don't want to be too casual. At the same time, you don't want to be too formal. Strike that balance. After you've written the essay, it's really important to return to the prompt, read it, and ask yourself, does this essay actually address the prompt? Because a lot of times people will write sometimes beautiful essays that are amazing and really tell a great story, but it's not really on target. It's like tangential to what the point of the prompt is. It's missing the mark, basically. It's not exactly what they're looking for. So make sure every time you feel like you're getting closer and closer to your final draft, you return to that question, make sure everything in the essay really serves to answer that question. All right, everyone, I hope that this has somehow enlightened you in the writing process. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. As always, if you have questions below, feel free to leave them, and I will get back to you as soon as possible. I really do think at the end of the day that it is important to be your own critic, not in a way where you're harsh on yourself, but in a way where you're realistic with your writing. That is sort of my philosophy with my writing. After I've done kind of having the word vomit, if you will, I always go through and read it and make sure that it actually makes sense, which is something that people often lose sight of. So thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video. Bye.